She observed the scene quietly, noticing the girl's quiet whimpers beside the man. Tears threatened to spill from her glossy eyes as she nervously played with her fingers, her gaze fixed downward. A sense of unease settled within the waitress as she sensed something was amiss. Yet, when the girl discreetly slid a drawing across the table, the urgency to act overwhelmed her. Without hesitation, she reached for the phone to dial 911. Paisley Bairstow, the waitress, never anticipated that her day would culminate in contacting the authorities. Normally one to keep to herself, she avoided meddling in others' affairs, deeming it more trouble than it was worth. Her life experiences had taught her to lead a solitary existence, to rely solely on herself, and to avoid unnecessary entanglements. However, on that particular day, she found herself compelled to break her own rules. Paisley was unlike many 21-year-old college students in New Ulm, Minnesota. While many her age were busy enjoying college life, she was trying to figure out how to pay her bills at the end of the month. Although she graduated among the top in her class in high school, she missed a full ride to college by a whisker, forcing her big sister to source her tuition fee. But things were about to go from bad to worse for her. Paisley and her big sister Evelyn were orphans. Evelyn was older than her by 6 years and had assumed legal guardianship. So as Paisley got into her final year of high school, Evelyn reminded her that she needed to secure a full scholarship to college. The two's inheritance money wouldn't be enough for college expenses, and so Paisley got down to work. For months, she worked hard in school and got excellent grades. She was confident she'd secure that scholarship. Her sister had already given enough to see her to the place she was now, and Paisley wanted to ease her burden. As the two sat in their small living room, Paisley tore open the scholarship letter. Her heart would shatter into a million pieces when she read it. Paisley's eyes grew wet as she read the letter. She'd been rejected, which meant she and Evelyn would have to think of another way to cover her college fees before it was too late. To make matters worse, one of the best medical schools in the country had sent Paisley a calling letter. All she needed to do was iron out her finances and hop on the earliest buses to chase her dream of becoming a surgeon. She had no idea that she wouldn't be leaving her small town. Like many kids, Paisley had left all the responsibility to her grown-up guardian, but she could see just how much toll this was taking on Evelyn. She approached her one night, telling her she could find a local medical school with cheaper tuition. She could live in an apartment outside school and work to pay her own utility bills. This decision would change her life forever. After a year of working as a waitress in a small diner near New Ulm, Paisley was tired of life's hardships. She focused on her job and studies, hoping for a better future. She didn't have many friends and preferred the quiet life, finding solace in her solitude. But today, peace would turn into chaos in just a few minutes. Paisley wiped the counter of the diner, her tired eyes scanning the nearly empty room. It was a typical evening, with regular customers coming and going. Over the year, she had grown fond of the diner's cozy atmosphere and home-cooked meals, though she never told her coworkers. As she worked, Paisley smiled at the occasional customer, counting down the minutes until her shift ended. She still had to study for a test the next day. Despite her job as a waitress, she had dreams and goals beyond this, and she was determined to achieve them. Her thoughts were interrupted by the chime of the diner's door. A tired-looking man entered, with the setting sun behind him. He wore a cap that obscured his face, but Paisley could see the worry in his eyes and the weariness in his posture. Behind him, a little girl peeked timidly, keeping her distance. Paisley didn't want to judge them by their appearance alone. She continued her work as the man and the girl entered the diner. Their clothes looked worn out, as if they had been on a long journey. If only Paisley knew what was really going on. The man guided the girl through the diner, eventually settling in a booth in the far corner. He seemed to be deliberately avoiding attention, positioning himself with his back against the wall. This caught Paisley's interest. During Paisley's time as a waitress, she had served a variety of people. From big families to individuals seeking comfort food, she had seen it all. College students, high schoolers, kids, and elderly folks had all been her customers. But nothing could prepare her for what she would discover today. Putting aside the cloths she was cleaning with, Paisley hurried over to the booth where the man and the little girl were seated. It was a corner spot, perfect for someone wanting to keep an eye on the surroundings. But as she got closer, Paisley noticed anger in the man's eyes and sadness in the little girl's. Introducing herself, Paisley was about to ask if the girl was okay, but something stopped her. She handed them a menu instead, offering coffee with a smile. However, the man didn't respond, just stared at her until she stepped back. Paisley sensed something was off. In her experience, kids usually brightened up at the sight of food, but this little girl was different. She seemed withdrawn, with red eyes and a runny nose. Paisley suspected she had been crying before they arrived. She almost asked if the girl was his daughter, but noticed they didn't resemble each other much. Despite arriving together, Paisley observed differences in their appearance that made her wonder about their relationship. Where the man had silky black hair, dark brown eyes, and medium dark skin, the girl was a blonde with bright gray eyes. Her skin was also very light, a proper contrast to the man. But that was not half of it. She had a narrower nose than him, with round lips as opposed to his thin ones. Paisley could tell the two were not related, although she could have been wrong. Still, she kept calm, patiently waiting until the man made his and the girl's order. If she were smart, she would have intervened now before everything went south. Paisley returned to the counter with 1,000 questions racing through her mind. She wondered what brought the two of them here. Were they running from someone or something? The diner had rarely seen any drama or chaos in the time she'd been here, but now, the air was thick with a tense sense of foreboding. It all seemed to hover above this man and the little girl. Paisley passed the order to the chef and waited patiently for the food. The man had ordered a plate of pancakes for himself and the girl, with coffee for him and a cup of hot chocolate for the girl. The order struck Paisley as odd, mainly because it was evening, and no one ever ate pancakes at this time of day. She couldn't help but wonder why the man had made such an odd decision. As she waited for the order, Paisley's eyes kept darting back to the booth in the corner. Her brows knitted as she realized the little girl's cheeks gleamed with tears. The man whispered something into her ear, and the girl burst out in a sob. She collected herself as soon as her eyes connected with Paisley. What was happening? Something was definitely wrong here, and it fell on Paisley to root it out. She needed to know if the girl needed any help at all. Why was she crying like this? Paisley gathered the man's order and approached their table. With a gentle smile, she placed a plate of steaming pancakes in front of the little girl. She wanted to talk to her until her sight inched to the man. He was glaring at Paisley, the anger in his eyes shimmering. "That will be all, miss," he said. But the girl sobbed by his side, although a glower from him rendered her quiet. "We'll call if we need anything," he added, pulling the pancakes before him. The child's eyes watered as Paisley backstepped away. If she'd had a hunch that something was wrong before, she'd just gotten her confirmation. Paisley walked back to her vantage point at the counter. She wondered what to do next. Whatever was happening here had nothing to do with her. She didn't usually get involved in things that didn't benefit her. Life had been tough, and she learned to keep to herself to get by. But what kind of person would she be if she ignored this little girl in need? With sweat on her forehead, Paisley went to the back of the counter. She acted like she was dusting but kept an eye on the girl. She noticed the girl hadn't eaten anything, not even her hot chocolate. Paisley cursed silently, knowing she couldn't sleep knowing the girl was suffering. Her heart pounding, she quickly came up with a plan to talk to the girl alone. She needed to make sure she was okay. Paisley grabbed a jar of water from a nearby table and walked over to the man and the girl. "Do you need to use the bathroom?" she asked the girl. "Why?" the man asked. "I noticed you haven't eaten," Paisley said, ignoring him. She knelt down and slipped a piece of paper and a pen to the girl under the table. But that was just the start of her plan. She spilled some water on the floor and started cleaning it up, trying to distract the man. Meanwhile, the girl nervously scribbled on the paper. Paisley talked to the man to keep his attention away. When the girl finished, she leaned back in her seat. Paisley grabbed the paper, pretending to clean under the table before walking away. In the kitchen, she looked at what the girl had drawn. Her eyes widened as she read the single word on the paper: help. Kelly immediately called the police, who quickly arrived at the scene. It turned out that the little girl had been kidnapped, and the police were actively searching for her. The kidnapper was apprehended on the spot, and the little girl was safely returned home. Kelly's quick thinking and trust in her instincts were crucial in saving the girl's life.